and welcome everyone. I'm Ari Lax, and this week we have some legacy going on just in time for SCG Worcester. So you're going to see a lot of Delver at SCG Worcester. You're going to see a lot of Miracles. But over the last few months, there's been a few decks filtering into the kind of stock legacy metagame that are, I don't want to say decks that didn't exist or didn't fundamentally exist before, but they are taking on some new additions and becoming really things that attack the metagame from a relevant angle. So decks I'm not going to talk about today are there's these slower mid-rangey combo decks. Um, if you followed the Players Champs last year, you'll know that Alarin was a deck that I believe Jeff Hugum played at that had been popping up before that, thanks to Recruiter of the Guard, making it a little more accessible. You don't have to own Portal 3 Kingdoms Imperial Recruiters to play the deck. And that deck's reasonable against Miracles. I don't think it's insane. It's not, there's not going to be a deck that's absolutely unbelievably insane against Miracles and fine against the rest of the world. But if you can have a good matchup there for sure. So that deck did that. There's been Food Chain decks popping up lately that are using the interaction between Food Chain, Mist Hologriffin, and Walking Ballista. So that, you used to have to play some nonsense card like Fierce Empath or whatever to find Emrakul, but now you actually just have Ballista that's more of a fine magic card to go with your infinite mana combo of exiling Mist Hologriffin and recasting it for +1 mana each loop. But enough with the combo decks. This is the true mid-range deck. So that's really been the direction Legacy's been pushing, is these mid-range decks that actually do something. So there's a lot of mid-range decks a couple of years ago that did not do things. You can ask Jerry all about his exploits with those decks. But this is one that is, if you look at it, you can draw a lot of parallels between this and the current state of the Death Shadow Jund decks in Modern, where you have the best interaction, cheap threats, cheap manipulation, just all these pieces that make your deck always fluid. And this is 4-color mid-range. This list specifically was played by Andrei Strotsky to a 5-0 finish in a Magic Online League. The list was given to him by Thomas Marr, a Czech player who, as far as I know, was one of the designers, if not the designer, of this updated configuration of the archetype, or maybe the archetype in general. As as far as legacy credit goes, it's a little wishy-washy over the years. If you look at the mana, we're light on actual mana producing lands, but that's fine. We've got cantrips, we've got Deathrite Shaman. Cheap mana that finds us threats effectively. You ponder, you find your land, you find your threat. Brainstorm, you find your lands or threats, whatever you want. You Deathrite, you have a land that's a threat, that's a hate card. It's just great. You have spot answers, forceful because it is legacy. Bolt and push. You see this split because, one, you're trying to manage planeswalkers like Jace the Mind Sculptor, and also your clock's not great, so having the bolts is extra reach. Snap bolt or bolt snap bolt lets you accelerate the rate that you win the game quite a bit. And push, it's fine, but you're playing Abrupt Decay already. It's not like if you were a Grixis deck, just straight up Grixis, push would have been a huge addition. Decay and stuff like that really makes it so you already had ways to kill stuff. And then you've got some Thoughtseizing Inquisition. The point I like to make is that against combo, having a mix of discard and counter magic is actually better than having just counter magic, because often it's easy to sculpt a hand with cantrips that beats counter magic. It's easy to sculpt a hand through discard because, like in one way, they're like, oh, well, against counter magic, you can just wait because your opponent's stuck holding up mana, holding up cards for Force of Wills or whatever. Against discard, they take something and then you just ponder into the extra copy of it or whatever. When they have counters and discard, what ends up happening is they can take the piece of your hand that makes it crumble in the face of whatever other interaction they have, and you really just need less total interaction. Though, the game one configuration of this deck is light on interaction, the discard really augments the way that your post-board cards play against them. You have a bunch of 2-for-1s. You snuck into the wrong pile. Decay is just kind of your catch-all answer. But you've got all these 2-for-1s. K-Command, another flexible card like Decay that also gives you rebuy value in Snapcaster. Snapcaster, just a way to maximize all of your effective cards in each matchup, as well as extra brainstorms to find the effective cards. Baleful Strix, as it's a blue card, it cantrips, it's removal, it technically kills them, does just a little bit of everything. And then Painful Truce is just your raw card advantage spell, because if you'll notice, you're opting to not play the Cascade spells. You're not interested in tapping out like that. You're not interested in Bloodbraid or Shardless Agent. As a result, you're not interested in Ancestral Vision. So you do need some raw card draw. It also means that you just never draw Ancestral Vision, which is great. We've got some Wastelands, as I have them slotted into the interaction pile. If you ever see a deck like this with only 2 Wastelands and like a bunch of answers, Wasteland is another answer. There are lands that you're going to have to kill. I've gotten in some practice matches with this deck. The card was very useful at killing Grove of the Burn Willows, for example, to shut off Punishing Fire. It's good against Delver because you can attack their mana in specific spots and kind of cripple their ability to play bigger threats like True Name or potentially catch them off guard. It's fine against Combo to kind of choke their ability to cast like a sneak attack early. And then you have your big finishers, as every blue deck does. Jace, the classic, and then Leovold, kind of the newcomer. Both a bit of a lock piece for other blue decks, but also the target ability comes up. So it's a 2-for-1 in the face of an answer, but it does, I was talking about playing against Grove of the Burn Willows Punishing Fire. This card does great stuff against that. You draw a card every time they cast fire. And then in the first match I played with this deck was against Storm, and this ability comes up when you start looking at the sideboard against Storm. So, moving the sideboard, we've got some cheap interaction. And the thing I specifically want to talk about with Leovold is that when they tendrils you for 10 copies, each copy targets you. So each copy triggers Leovold, you draw a card. Now, drawing into a Forcible is not going to save you. Drawing into a Flusterstorm will. However, Flusterstorm against other combo decks can get bricked by enough mana. So you have Invasive Surgery, which admittedly doesn't hit all the things they can cast. They can cast Animate Dead maybe, or they can cast Sneak Attack, but that's why you can fire this off at Ponder any day. You've got Pyroblast again to attack cantrips, various blue cards in the pseudo mirrors or mirrors. It's a little worse than the actual mirror because the only real 2-for-1 you have to hit is Snapcaster, and then you've got Jace. Yeah, not super impressive. Another Wasteland to manage non-basics and attack Delver. Marsh Casualties. So you've got a lot of cheap, you'll see a lot of this mix of like one of this, little of this. In this case, it's because you don't want to draw too many of the same one that bricks. In this case, it's because these cards have unique effects, and you want to maximize that with Snapcaster. So Casualties is a card that, technically it answers Empty the Warrens, but realistically, the reason it's there is because against the 4-color Delver decks, it kills True Name Nemesis. And you can Marsh Casualties away Delver and Snapcaster Mage as well. And then if you need to snap it back, you have it there. And this is more against elves and taxes. It's just the efficient way. You can Fork Bolt through Athalia a little easier. You've got some Edicts as just bonus removal against the decks that you need it, as well as a specific answer to Merit Lage, to Reanimator creatures, to Emrakul. And then Neo Spellbomb as the most efficient graveyard answer. Surgical Extraction is not nearly as effective in this format. The graveyard decks go in bulk because Dredge is still a thing. Loam is a little bigger. Just in general, you want this instead of a spell, which is kind of sad because it's a Snapcaster, but that's life. So I'm already 2-0, 4-0 in the league with this deck, just get some warm-ups in. And I'm excited to get some reps against blue decks and kind of showcase how this deck... So one of the things, it's just... You don't have to play a lot of true Legacy where there's these like, oh, I daze your Stifle, and then you time this at the wrong time, so I get to do this. It's just like, no, I'm going to cast my thing, and it does the thing, and then you're down a card. And then you're down another card, and then you die. So I think that it's a really approachable deck for the format is one of the things that I like about it. You don't have to have all these Legacy-specific skills built up to play it. And I'm hoping that means that I can shake off the rust a little.